current assessment of students is based on their bookish knowledge and the scores and the marks that they get. So how can we look at a better or a more meaningful assessment process where the learning is much deeper for students? So is that something that's being considered?
No, I think that's a wonderful question, because everything hinges on assessment, and educators, policy makers, parents, they feel that the knowledge, skills and dispositions that their children need to have in order to make successes of themselves in the 21st century should be completely different. Now, how do we work on that kind of an aspect? I think what we have to really look at is that whatever we teach, do children learn? And then what we teach, is it applicable to the world outside? Is it applicable to the market? That's where the assessment kicks in. Because when we look at this whole practice of assessment in terms of more as of movement rather than improvement, that's the kind of assessment symbols that we're looking at, not only in India, across the world. We're still stuck in that frame. So I think the whole idea has to be based on deep learning, which is through reflection.
Right.
We do not have reflection modules in assessment. The whole system should be of I know, I do, I reflect. That's the way the assessment pattern should work. Now, when I look at this question, I think these two questions are inextricably interrelated. What do children learn? Do they have the success modules for coming towards the market? And what do I notice normally is that the assessment that is given by any board, whether it's a state or a central board, is based on top-down. And the teacher starts looking at the continuum of learning and starts assessing children. I think the model that has to come into place is reflect on the assessment. The reflection has to be far deeper in a manner than the knowing and the doing. Because reflection helps in cognitive skills. Now, this word cognitive has been used so often. What is cognition? Cognition is about speech, it's about memory, and it's about being able to process information. Now, all these three things are important, and they only come into play during reflection. So a child needs to reflect what he has learned for himself. It's a self-assessment model. He needs to then think about it, and then he needs to evaluate. Every time a child evaluates his own self-assessment through the cognitive model, he moves into a space of a growth mindset, which is metacognition. What is metacognition? Metacognition is able to understand the processes in which your mind works. What are the patterns that a child feels there are in his mind which helps him to learn? Unless he reflects, he will not understand that, which means a child will be able to understand, hey, I can learn this thing through art. I can learn this thing spatially. I can learn this thing through kinesthetic development. So a child has to be able to understand what is it that I can learn and how do I learn it. The moment he becomes a partner to his own learning system, he grows, he improves, he develops, and then he sets for himself ambitious goals. I think without this whole reflective process, nothing happens. So it's very important that all our assessment models that we have today, starting from foundational to primary to middle school years, going up to grades 11 and 12, to senior schools, have to create this kind of platforms where children understand that it's very essential that they take the ownership of the assessment. How do we do that? Schools have to do a lot of training for teachers where they stop doing this top to bottom business. And this is something which actually we're stuck in this mindset in our country. Because across the entire Indian subcontinent, we have, whether they're government schools or any other state schools or the best of private schools, the assessment finally hinges on the marks. And the marks which have been provided by a kind of a rote memory learning. So I think it is essential that children should articulate, they should evaluate, and they should move forward. Only then there will be successes in the whole arena of learning and develop as global citizens engaged with the world at large.
So as I understand, experiential learning, reflection, a child's involvement in learning himself, And of course, low-key possibly assessment processes could make the whole process of learning joyous and fun. Thank you, Dr. Wattal.